Welcome to Königssee in Bavaria. We're here for the final race weekend of the World Cup season, the dress rehearsal before the Winter Games in Sochi. Next up on our card is men's skeleton World Cup Round 8 in the Viessmann series. The first of two runs on the oldest artificial track on the planet. And it's also the European Championships, so North American and other nations won't count, but for the European sliders, a big deal. Well, alongside me in the booth, I'm thrilled to have Katie Uhlaender from the USA, getting ready to head to her Winter Olympics in Sochi. Katie, you slid this track yesterday in snowy conditions. It's clear here today, but what are the key areas?
Well, I mean, obviously you could tell from Bobsleigh that the start has quite an effect with the speed going into the S-curves, and then it's all about riding the pipe down and trying to keep momentum and create more speed from those S-curves. So you should know by the time they enter Jenner what's going to happen. Like, here's S4, you have the bend away, you take a crucial tap there, you try not to hit again. Bobsled hits twice, we go once. And your speed into Jenner, you just try to maintain it going uphill into Kreisel here, because then you're going to come downhill at a 45-degree angle, and if you can maintain that speed, you're golden.
Well, this labyrinth, like the S at the top, is really, really tight, and this is key to speed for the rest of the track. Yeah,
and you definitely don't want to take a skid there in chicane, because, you know, shortly afterwards you're going uphill in Eckelvan to the finish, and whatever speed you bleed there, you're not going to get back. The track's too short.
Well, the sport is all about falling with style, and the more stuff you hit on the way down, the less speed you're going to have to carry to the finish line, and that's what it's all about, keeping the speed up. Martis Dukurs of Latvia is our World Cup points leader, 80 points in it, but with Alexander Tretyakov not here, he's back home in Sochi training up for the Games. He's in fact 100 points ahead of brother Thomas. That sounds like an unbeatable margin, but with 225 points for a win, and Dukurs having crashed out of the lead 2 years ago here, it's not necessarily settled in favour of Martins. What is certain is that one of the brothers will be our World Cup champion. It's the 8th and final Viessmann World Cup of the season. European Championship gold medals are at stake here as well. As we said, after snow in yesterday's women's race reduced it just to a single heat with, well, not clear skies, but certainly no snow coming down today, we should be good to go. We've got 28 sleds on the entry list, so the first thing, Katie, is everybody wants to make the top 20, because that's the only way of getting a second run.
Right. And I'm curious, isn't Dukurs in the running for the Triple Crown as well?
Yeah, now that is the final part of his race weekend here. The Triple Trophy goes to any athlete or team, or a part of it goes to any athlete or team that can win the final 3 races of the season. But the wrinkle this year that they've added is that you have to win all 6 competitive heats as well. So he's done 4 so far, 4 fastest heats, 2 race wins. He's got to be fastest in both heats here. It's not enough to just win the race from behind, you've got to lead from the front. And with nobody else in the running, if he does it, like last year, he'll get all 100 big ones.
Oh my gosh.
200,000 euro in 2 years. Imagine what that does to an athlete's competition budget. You know, whatever you get from your National Olympic Committee, from your national funding, having 200,000 smackers in the bank certainly doesn't hurt. And, you know, Katie, like every other athlete, you have mortgaged yourself financially, but also, you know, your entire life put on hold to train and race and be a sportswoman, to be an athlete. You leave everything else behind and you just bury yourself in this completely.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, Noelle does a great job of bringing her family on tour, and they sacrifice with her, and that's awesome. And then the Dukurs, I've seen them come up from being teenagers on tour, and they've worked and scraped for everything they've got. So to see them have the opportunity to, I don't know, win the jackpot at the end of the rainbow is pretty phenomenal, because I don't think I could think of any other athletes that deserve it more.
Well, there is our start list. 28 sleds ready to hit the ice here in Königssee. Well, a rare first start draw for Japan. Hiroatsu Takahashi, now in the top 10 in the World Cup rankings, gets the random draw that means he is our crash test dummy. First sled on the ice here in Königssee, Bavaria, last World Cup of the season. Martin Haven and US Olympian Katie Uhlaender watching the action trackside with you.
43.5 speed. Pretty good entry. entry to 1.
And the start record, 4.5 seconds. A 4:79 then is a way off that.
You can hear in the S-curves when you hear the scraping of the sled that they're working a little too hard or not going with it. It seems like he's gotten off rhythm from the beginning, and he's going to struggle here.
So I'm getting sideways and kicking up the ice crystals. 1:19.4, fastest speed in the women's race yesterday was Noelle Piker-Space, the winner at 1:15. So you see how a dramatic effect the snow slows down the skeleton sleds.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that one.
Yeah, absolutely. The heavier you are as an athlete, the taller, the more weight you carry, the better you plow through the snow. Takahashi, there's his coach, Katsuhiro Koshi. Not the most sparkling of runs for him, I don't think.
No, he got a little off rhythm in the S-curves, and then you can see him struggling down the bend away to keep it straight. He handled Kreisel all right for his mistakes, but at that point, the speed's gone. So, like, there, he looks all right, but it was gone before he even entered Kreisel.
And when you've got less speed, it's hard to keep the sled on a constant radius line, I imagine.
Well, the pressure changes on the entry to Kreisel, and to be honest, if you lose your speed and you're going into Kreisel, which is a 360-degree turn that goes uphill initially, it's really difficult to make that speed up from that point on.
Well, yeah, here is a young German who has plenty of potential to perform well here, and the crowd would like that because their bobsleigh team had a nightmare in the two-man race that's just finished. Alexander Krökel, just 23 years old, this former junior world champion.
I had the pleasure of competing with him on ICC, and these guys have great attitudes. They are a lot of fun on tour. He looks really calm and relaxed on his sled. Great entry to 1. See what happens.
Part of the secret to keeping the speed in the sled is to be as relaxed as possible, which seems insane when you're traveling 60, 70, 80 miles an hour head first.
It just depends on if you like it or not. He had a great bend away, and his S-curves looked all right. He had a little bit of trouble there in S2, but he's handling it really well. The big advantage the Germans have is the amount of runs they get through Kreisel to get that timing down.
More speed than Takahashi, and that pays off now below the labyrinth. He's got speed to spare, driving away from the Japanese. Ooh.
He tried to come up a little early,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that wasn't just me seeing that. He settled there. That's almost like a brakeman in a bobsleigh sticking his head up, thinking he was somewhere else in the final corner. That's very weird.
It's kind of nice that they mark where the finish is, because I think I've done that quite a few times, especially in Whistler with the start or the finish being like 60 meters up. Whatever it is, it's forever.
Yeah. Well, he was changing his seating position dramatically in the final corner. Good Kreisel, though.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think his angle at the first pressure was a little off. I don't think he nailed the entry to Kreisel, and I think we're going to see some other sliders with much higher speeds on the exit of Kreisel because of that. He handled it well, though. He's very relaxed.
Third on the ice is Thomas Dukurs. Nice third in our World Cup rankings. And may well move up to second place in the absence of Alexander Tretiakov.
Thomas is one of my favorite athletes to watch slide in training because he is always just immaculate with what he's doing. I think he's going to have a great race here today.
Great
See
momentum.
how much, like, there was no noise between S1 and S2. He's just so smooth, a lot smoother than the last two athletes that came down.
That's one of the secrets. When you're leaning on the track here, you can hear everything about a skeleton sled, and if you don't hear much...
Great entry. That was a perfect first pressure in Kreisel. Makes when you nail the first pressure, the last pressure becomes so easy.
75 miles an hour into the Kreisel, and you're really building speed down here as well.
Oh, buddy, let's see what happens.
Track record is a 50.64 slide. How close will he be?
51.12.
Well, half a second away. 51.12. He takes the lead by 0.06 of a second from Alexander Krökel. So Krökel really found speed at the bottom of the track.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised. I thought Thomas's run was a much better run, but maybe it's a runner choice, or is the snow coming down again? I'm not really sure what's going on out there right now.
It's always hard to tell. Runners, like cars on a race tire, like tires on a race car even, they look so identical when you look at them, but they have such a big effect on how your sled behaves.
True. I mean, Thomas had the speed going into Kreisel, and he had a much better Kreisel than I thought Alexander did, but that's the mystery of this sport, man. Like, sometimes you come down and you think you're golden, and you see the clock, and you're like, what happened?
What the?
Yeah, there's so many variables with runners, with how tight you want on your sled. You know, and equipment choice makes a big difference when the weather starts changing like it is right now.
Just saw Coach Andy Schmidt looking over the barriers at Kristen Bromley. Kristen, in his 18th year as a World Cup slider, has not yet made the decision whether to continue on to the Pyeongchang Games. So he may carry on to be as veteran as Gregor Daly.
He's awesome. He was one of the first sliders I met when I started sliding, and he and Snorri Peterson taught me a lot about sliding, as well as Maya Peterson. They're some of my favorite people.
Well, Kristen with partner Shelley Rudman celebrating yesterday. Shelley took a European Championship medal and 3rd place in the Women's Skeleton World Cup. To fight the waves.
Oh, yeah. He didn't have the speed going in, and
wow.
I think he just scrubbed whatever speed he just had with those mistakes.
That was wild. The real scorpion kick there as he hangs on in the bottom of the labyrinth. Well, he always likes a wild ride, an aggressive sled. Just occasionally you pay the price for that. 51.9 slide.
Who's that?
That's his brother Richard. That'll be a nice in-joke.
The lady who?
Lady Chatsworth.
Yeah, Kristen, man, he's one of my favorite. Oh, he won, the overall World Cup in 2008 and the World Championships in Altenburg. I like his style of being on the edge. Man, that hurts.
Well, I always think that the two of you ride a sled very similarly. You always look like you're kind of on an edgy sled. You don't look like you like it well planted, and I think Kristen's, they've got a very similar style. Well, now here's
Kyle Tress.
Okay, dish the dirt. Here's one of your teammates, IT engineer Kyle Tress. He's the go-to man in the traveling circus of skeleton if your laptop or your phone packs up.
I'm opening a Red Bull in his honor right now.
All right, there we go.
Just stay relaxed, Kyle. You got this. He is one of the hardest workers on tour and has worked. I mean, he started sliding with me, and he's come a long way since he began sliding. Oh man, I feel like that S curve is going to cost him a bit. I don't think he had the right timing on it. It seems like he's getting off rhythm a bit. But if he can just relax.
Those S's are so tight and close together, and the same with the labyrinth. You know, 2 corner sequences here that are tighter than any on any track.
Yeah, okay.
Ooh, just avoided the short
I don't
wall.
think he's going to be around Bromley's time. But yeah, the S cart, you have to find the rhythm in them and go with them. If you find yourself being too passive or not going with the momentum that your sled's creating in the curves, you end up going against it, and it's a really touchy feel through there.
I always think it's a little bit like surfing. You're trying to fight a wave, you're always going to come out worse because the sea is stronger than you are.
Yeah, you have to go with gravity. You can't fight it. I mean,
hey, I'm trying.
Well, Kyle has a lot he can improve on for sure.
Way high up by the woodwork.
But, oh man, big skid through there. It gets flat and then goes uphill. I mean, he handled it really well there. Missed that hit. That probably saved him a little bit. That's probably what made the difference between him and Bromley.
Not hard to read the body language. Whether you speak the language of the athlete or not, you can generally tell. Now, here's Frank Rommel. Had a big result on this track last season, and one that he always really likes. Rommel took the silver medal in last year's World Cup race here. And he could do with that. He's had a tough season.
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah.
Oh.
484.
Nice entry to 1, really smooth. This is a great place to build speed from 1 to S1. Yeah, his S curves are sounding really smooth and he's going with it. See if he can handle it through here. Yep. Nice hit. Not too early to enter. If he can get a good entry to Kreisel, which looks like he did.
Good speed.
He's a phenomenal driver, and he must really love this track. I mean, he's carrying his momentum down really well.
Fastest speed we've seen from Frank Rommel.
Great chicane. He should pick up some more time here on the bottom. Oh, he might hit a little bit here. Oh, he nailed it.
1400's back though. Is he going to be close to our race leader, Thomas Dukurs? He's close, he's very close. Wow. Well, you know, he's got that habit of finding speed. The longer the track, the shorter the starts, the better he likes it.
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job. That was a phenomenal run. Yesterday, I mean, with the snow, I have to be honest, Anya Huber had one of the best runs I saw on the replay, but unfortunately, we weren't able to generate the same amount of speed with the snow on the track, and I think these guys are getting lucky with the weather they got going right now.
He's going to his third Winter Games in Sochi. There's a lot of new Olympians here, and here is another one. John Daly, appointed to the Olympic squad for the USA.
This will be his second games.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal starter. He's very fast, upright. And Daly's known for his wonderful hair and his sexy looks at the women. What helps with his looks is his brow. But unfortunately, that brow gets in his way of putting his head down. So he has a very unique way of holding his head down the sled. He can't give the track the same sexy look he gives the women, but he does the best he can. He's sounding really smooth here. Great S4. Oh, just relax. He'll be fine. You can take it as long as you keep those runners straight, which he seems to have done a great job of. Great entry to Kreisel. Handled the first pressure well. Stayed within those blue lines. Now he just needs to trust it on the exit.
Well, that's the lowest speed we've seen. 1:19.0 and in trouble in the labyrinth.
He just has a tendency to get so hyped up because he's such a great athlete. And I think that's part of what makes skeleton so unique is you want to be a really fast starter, but save just enough to be able to get your heart rate down and relax. And I think Daly sometimes struggles with that, but he is a phenomenal athlete and knows what to do. And usually his second heat will be much better because he gets himself to relax.
It's an astonishing transformation. So you have to be a 50-meter sprinter, and then you have to be a Zen Buddhist guru as you just lie there and do nothing.
But overall, his run was pretty decent. I think if he can just relax a little bit more on the second heat, he'll do great. Because right there, if he had just put his shoulders down and taken it, I think it would have been fine. And I mean, for what happened, he handled it pretty well.
Unfortunately, you heard him all the way through the labyrinth there, and that means lack of speed.
There he is. Look at that look. Look at that brow.
Talk about all-American clean-cut kid.
We're in a hair war with the
from
Canadians.
the University of Plattsburgh. So now then, our World Cup champion last year, our World Cup points leader this year, beaten to the World Championship last year by Alexander Tretyakov, beaten to the Olympic gold in Vancouver by John Montgomery. But this is the final World Cup race of the season. And this heat may decide whether he is less than a minute away from €100,000.
His start is always phenomenal. And what I love about Dukurs is no matter how much he wins, he's always just as passionate about competing. And he takes great pride in doing well. And it's showing right now because that was a great S1, S2.
Well, his closest rival is his brother, and he said, we're not competitors. Sure, when we're on the ice, we're sliding against the clock and theoretically against each other, but they share everything. 121.2 over a kilometre an hour, quicker than anybody else.
Oh, and it looks like he's going to make it right through. That was his biggest challenge, I think, in training this week was Kreisel for him and everyone.
Down the labyrinth, you've got to just trickle down it like a stream, and he did brush on the wall, but he's 4/10 up. He's going to lead this heat. One step to go, maybe, from that €100,000 prize. That is a big slide, just 200ths off the track record set by Frank Rommel last year's race.
Man, that was a great run to watch. He had a phenomenal Kreisel. And you could see there he was unsure, but he just kept his shoulders down and went with it, and that's the key. And Noel does a great job of that as well, of just like, you know, if you make a mistake, just understand where the momentum of your sled is going and keep it going that direction.
Well, like any great athlete, you have to trust your instinct above all else. And it's seldom, if you slide unconsciously, it seldom leads you astray.
Exactly. Matt Antoine. I mean, I'm trying not to be biased here, but go USA.
Yeah, well, feel free. They're your teammates. If you don't support them, then there's no hope for anyone. From Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. And this is going to be his first games, right?
Yes, he actually, I thought he was going to make Vancouver. He got a, I think, silver medal in the World Cup the year before the games last time. I think he just struggled mentally, and this year he's got confidence. Our sleds have improved so much, and he had a great, all the boys had a great part in that, Protostar putting it together. So I think having a sled that he has a lot of confidence in enabled him to have confidence in what he was doing down the track.
And this is something you relate to a lot, and the fitness as well. This year, you know, he took last year, he had the big surgery to get himself right for the games, and it's worked, it's paid off.
Exactly. I mean, look at the way he's coming down Bendaway. It's perfect.
Really long, lean athlete, and that's what the wind likes coming towards it. 119.9.
Great Kreisel.
Not great speed.
Yeah, I don't know where that...
But look at that. He just flowed through the labyrinth. 4/10 behind Dukurs, but closing now. Second place behind Martin Dukurs. He's going to be in front of Thomas Dukurs. That is a really standout run from Marc-Antoine.
Really solid. And I wonder if the main difference was maybe the start speed and being able to generate more speed through the S-curves, because I'm telling you, if you can get a great start and great speed in the beginning, and then you have the opportunity to go through the S-curves and create even more, that's the golden ticket right there into Kreisel. And he had a great run, but that start speed can sometimes nick you. When you start having athletes that have similar equipment, similar driving skills, that start speed is what gets you.
Marc-Antoine is lying second, splitting the Latvian Dukurs brothers, as Dom Parsons gets ready to take on this Königssee track. Also nominated this week to go to Sochi for Team GB Skeleton. Fantastic story for this young mechanical engineering student from Bristol. Studying how to make a better car engine, and in his spare time making a better running machine as well. That's him rather than an actual machine. 4:73 getaway, that's a big start from Dom Parsons. Confidence is so vital. Bronze medal in his first race of the year in Calgary really set him up for the season.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of don't remember much the first half for whatever reason. But yeah, his S-curves, they weren't really that smooth. You could hear a lot of ice cutting through the transitions, and it's just from there, that point on, if you don't have the rhythm of the track, you're just going to struggle to keep your speed, and I think that's what's happening to Parsons here now.
He's wrestling it, and 10th of our sliders in 10th spot behind Kristen Bromley at the moment, and he sneaks in front of Dr. Ice by 400ths. Well, not the ideal warm-up for Sochi.
The thing about Dukurs, Martin's Dukurs, is his start is so fast and his driving is really smooth. I mean, you look at the start difference between Matt and Martin's, it's about 1500ths, which could be 3/10 to the bottom, and if you look, he's not much behind him at the bottom. So Matt had a great run. I'm really excited for the momentum he's bringing into Sochi.
Martin Dukurs, our race leader. From Marc-Antoine, Thomas Dukurs lying third. We've had the first 10 of 28 sleds here in Königssee. Our 11th starter today is the third of our Germans, the second of our Alexes. This is Alexander Gassner, 24-year-old from the Winterberg track. World Cup rookie 2 seasons ago. He was the Junior World Champion in 2010 and the Intercontinental Cup champion that year as well. His standout season so far.
So smooth right through there. Great S2, S3. Let's see if he can hold it together down the Bendaway. Oh. Yeah, all right. Oh no, that might cost him.
No panic. He's in the red, but then everybody who follows Martin Dukurs is in the red.
He lost the speed already, and then his entry to Kreisel just wasn't on par with the rest of the field. So this is not going to be a great run for Alexander. I don't think he's going to be very happy when he gets to the bottom.
Germans 4th and 5th at the moment. Frank Rommel and Alexander Krökel. Alex Gassner is 8th and dropping. Could be behind the 2 British sliders at the bottom. No, hangs on to 8th with a 51.62. So 8th place for Alexander Gassner. John Daly of the USA in front of him. And Hiro Takahashi, the Japanese slider, still lying in 6th position. Could end up being one of his best results of the season.
Man, man, his head is down. I don't think there was a lot of pressure down there.
Well, he likes to bury his head. You see that quite often, don't we, from Anja Huber? She gets her head so low, she has to turn it sideways to stop the face mask dragging on the ice.
Welcome to skeleton.
Well, but that's confidence as well, to a degree. Sometimes some athletes put their head down because they know they're on the right line and they don't need to look.
You know, I don't really know if that would make me feel that safe.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's how it takes you, isn't it? Alexander Mutovin of Russia. He's a sports trainer from Krasnoyarsk, 29 years old. First World Cup start of the season, first World Cup in a couple of years for Mutovin. Of course, the top Russian sliders, their Olympic team back home in Sochi at the Sankey Sliding Center, getting in that vital extra home field advantage ice time.
Oh man, that's, so far I think he's already behind. Those S-curves were not in sync. Hit right, he's gonna struggle. He's gonna be pretty far back on the speed here, I'd assume. Yeah, and he missed the first pressure there. It's all, I mean, if he's a fairly new slider, hopefully he can just get some experience from this race and build from there.
Well, he's been on the national team since 2002, but he's only had one regular season in World Cup, which tells you that the game moved on while he was enjoying his sliding. And he's definitely in their B squad. 52-11 slide. And we're now, once we're out of the top 10, starting to look at who in the remaining 18 athletes will take the 10 places in the second half of the field. And that might not be enough.
The one great thing about this track is even when your run is not so great and you're struggling, it is still so much fun. It is the equivalent of going to like a water park and going down the slides and just like giggling the whole way down. Like there were days I was so tired and I was like, I don't know if I want to slide. And then I was like, wait a minute, it's Königssee. I definitely want to go.
The water park of ice sports welcomes Matthias Guggenberger, one of the most delighted people yesterday when teammate Janine Flock of Austria won the European Championship in the snow-shortened women's skeleton race. Let's see if he can somehow get the Austrian men's program up to the podium.
Not a bad start. He used to have one of the fastest starts on tour. I think
he's had a lot of back problems the last couple of seasons, hasn't he? Really quite bad, and that really doesn't help when you're sprinting bent over.
No, I think that sprinting bent over is one of the hardest things you can do. Just because you're fast upright doesn't mean you're going to be fast pushing a skeleton sled. Martins and Thomas Dukurs are a perfect example. I think Thomas outruns Martins upright, but Martins definitely pushes that sled pretty quick.
It's
and so far,
unique style.
Having a decent run.
He's having a good run. He is in the top 10 at the moment.
I think he scrubbed a bit of his speed up in the S-curves. S2 wasn't so smooth.
Ninth place at the line. And don't forget, we're going to take all the North American sliders out of the frame. He comes down in 9th place, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th of the European athletes. So he will currently lie 6th place in the European Championship race.
Oh, right there out of the exit S4, he handled it really well, but I don't think he had quite a sharp enough angle on that tap there, and it cost him and pushed him a little too early before Jenner. And when you go in too early to Jenner, it affects your entry to Kreisel and scrubs quite a bit of speed going uphill.
Anton Batuev of Russia, 28-year-old from Moscow, and again, only an occasional World Cup slider.
I had the pleasure of sliding with Anton on ICC as well, and he was determined to teach me how to speak Russian. Every day, he and the other Russians would make me repeat "Privyet, privyet," and "Horosho." Like, now I know Russian words thanks to this guy right here.
There you go. 488 getaway. Again, with Tretyakov's start record at 4.54. You can see how Alex Tretyakov stays at the top of the Russian pyramid.
Yeah, a lot of athletes are struggling with S2, which then causes an awkward sort of pressure through S3, which Anton just did. Again, too early to Jenner. He seemed to get an okay entry into Kreisel, but unfortunately, it cost him speed.
Waving up and down horribly in Kreisel. No bumps down in the labyrinth, but the speed is gone by that stage, Katie Ulender.
Yes, sir. He's just a little too excited, it looks like. You could see him pull on his handles there on the exit of Ecovon to make sure he didn't hit.
Yeah, maybe just not as familiar with this track as some of the others. 58.70, a couple of hundreds behind Matthias Guggenberger. That still puts him in 10th place, though. He may well end up in the top 10 after this first of 2 heats.
Yeah, he handled, I mean, if he just relaxed after he took that hit and not wiggled so much afterwards, it might have worked out. But unfortunately, when you're going downhill that fast, every little movement affects the next, you know, pressure you hit. Like right here, you can see he pulls on his handles to move his runners away from the wall. And it might have been a better move just to take it.
Next up, Sean Greenwood of Ireland, making his World Cup debut for the season. And originally from Vancouver in Canada, his family moved to Galway in Ireland. He's also a rugby player as well as a skeleton slider.
He seems to have been having a lot of fun on this track this week, and I think that could be a huge play in how he performs in the race. Right now, he sounds really great through the S-curves. If he can just relax through here, take the hit and not panic too much, he might end up in the top 10. We'll see.
Day job, he's a helicopter pilot in Vancouver.
I mean, so far it looks like he's having a pretty smooth run. He might have driven a little too hard there through Kreisel, but oops.
Same speed as Batuev. And only really ever occasionally see him. Saw him in the last World Championships in St. Moritz. But normally races in the Intercontinental Cup and North America's Cup. 52.14 slide leaves him in 15th place, and that leaves him perhaps in the danger zone.
I'd say that's a pretty decent run for Sean. He had a pretty smooth top. I think he just started to panic there at the bottom, and who knows what his setup is for the track. I'm guessing it's probably pretty aggressive considering he's on a Willie sled, and Willie's notorious for saying go for it.
Yeah. As a North American slider, much more familiar with the US and Canadian tracks that started the season. Trying to get himself up to speed here. Well, Coach Keith Loach was not expecting to be here this week with Pat Rooney.
Let's go, come on! Real hard, let's go!
Little change of plans, diverted him from the Junior Worlds in Eagles to bring 2 new Canadian sliders. First time we've had 2 sliders from Whistler, BC in the Canadian team at the same time in men and women's skeleton.
Now you see when you come out of the start groove, it's really weird because it goes uphill and you start to have one direction, and if you try to play with the direction of your sled on the uphill portion, it's going to have double the effect once it starts to go downhill into the first curve. And it seemed like David played with it a little bit too much there, and from that point on, he's just been wiggling his way down the track and not really going with the track as much as some of the other athletes.
Decent speed, not far off Batuev of Russia and Sean Greenwood of Ireland, but gets it all wrong, exiting the Kreisel. And Katie, that's one of the key points for every new slider. This is only his 7th trip down this track.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes I've gotten lucky. Like my first year on World Cup in Altenburg was my first time ever there, and I got 4th. But the key is really just to go with the track and not try to be too perfect, which I think when you get some athletes that are new to World Cup, they see all these veterans and they're like, oh, they look so great, look at Martins, and they try too hard to be perfect, and that in turn just makes it worse.
We had this discussion with John Montgomery last year, whether letting the sled go down on its own with just a sack of potatoes would be more efficient than having somebody drive it.
Unfortunately, it's true sometimes.
Yeah. Less is more.
But I'd like to think I'm faster than a sack of potatoes.
We would hope so. Sack of potatoes winning World Cup titles is not what we want for the sport. Well, there's Pat Rooney, and here's a man returning to World Cup action, Dave Grzesin from Canada. So the rest of the Canadian Olympic squad are back home in Calgary. World Cup rookie this season. Trained as a teacher and teaches kids during the summer.
Dave is a pretty big guy for a skeleton, but I mean, after seeing someone like Duff Gibson and Jeff Payne back in the day, it's not all that surprising. He's been sharing his food with me in between heats, though. I know he's got his snacks with him.
Well, in which case he must be bringing a lot. Grizzly bears normally take the food from the fellow campers.
Oh, yeah.
Not yeah.
He's been hooking me up with hard-boiled eggs. And then I gave him a frowny face when he got to eat the donuts. I didn't.
So you the boo-boo to his Yogi Bear?
I guess so. I definitely... He's the one stealing the picnic baskets.
Hey, well, he had good speed in the Kreisel, and that is going to pay off. Grzesin is going to be in 10th place at the bottom. He was looking to move up from below the Kreisel. It was a little bit of a wild ride, Katie, but he carried the speed despite that.
Yeah, I wonder if his weight had a little bit to play into that. I mean, his S-curves were pretty smooth. He must have had the speed coming down the bend away, and then, you know, he just held on from there. Maybe didn't freak out too much and was able to maintain more momentum. Pretty is not necessarily fast.
Yeah.
See, he took that hit. You can see his body just relaxing and going with it. He's bouncing like a sack of potatoes, as you said, and that just allows you to maintain more speed than you would if you were tight and fighting the mistakes.
Well, Dave Grzesin in 10th place in the World Cup, and a welcome back to World Cup competition for Great Britain's Dave Swift. Well, Swifty, whose dad is the coach of the Team GB sprint squad, is, as you might expect, a former sprinter. And Ed Smith has returned home, and that gives Dave Swift a last-minute call-up. He's been racing in the ICC this season.
Swifty always has a great attitude at the track, and he's always smiling. It's always a pleasure to be around him.
And look at those legs. Holy moly. 473 getaway and a great load. Let's see if he can get it all through the S's safely.
Oh, he's fighting it already. If he can relax and maybe try to, oh, no, it kind of looks like his S3 was a little too flat there. I don't think he's going to have the speed.
Head up, looking down the bend away. 4th at the start, 12th already.
His head was very high in the bend away as well. You can see he's just really tight on his sled, and the pressure of World Cup might be getting to him.
Well, it's the pressure of a last-minute call-up, trying to make a good impression again. So much noise. Now, is that chin or toes or runners or all three?
To be honest, I think we're looking at all three at the moment, unfortunately. And moving around that much, especially going uphill, it's just going to kill you. I mean, that yesterday, even in the snow, I knew that any little movement was going to cost me. I was opting to let my sled skid or hit or do whatever it wanted versus trying to make it not do something else. Because uphill, you know it's easier to stop going uphill than downhill.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just fighting it, and now he knows he's in trouble. You can see almost his chest there. His shoulders came up so high.
Well, drag is not your friend here, is it?
He's my friend. I'm just being honest.
No, drag is not your friend. Getting your chest up in the air, showing more of your profile to the air, and hitting the wall all causes drag. Yuki Sasahara of Japan with our #1 slider, Hiro Takahashi, currently in 6th spot. And that will be comfortably his best career result. He's had an 8th and a 9th so far this year, Takahashi. Sasahara, new to the World Cup this season. And he's had about a 50% hit record on making the second cut.
Now, did he used to play baseball?
Yeah, which is the sport in Japan. In a way that baseball was big in the States in the 50s and 60s, it is vast in Japan.
So he had a great entry to S1, but he was, in my opinion, I think if you're a little too high there on the exit of S1, you end up being too flat in S2, which is what just happened, and that is what kills your speed going into S3, and it's kind of over at that point. You're not going to be able to get the amount of speed that Dukurs can generate or anyone else through there. You might be able to maintain the speed you have, but you're not going to gain momentum going down, which we saw Matt and Martins do really well.
So what elements are you going to take away from this track that you'll be able to use when you get to Sochi for the Winter Games?
Well, I think, the Triple Crown has a great point in, and I was also lucky to come back second half on these last 3 tracks because they all have the same theme of generating speed the same way. You really feel a certain, St. Moritz is very unique in the way that you generate speed by just holding the line and not moving around too much. Eagles is the same thing because there's very little pressure and you really have to have a minute touch to where you maneuver the sled in what direction you go in and not fighting any mistakes you make because mistakes are going to happen. No one goes down perfectly. And Königssee is Königssee. I don't know if I say that right. Sorry, guys. But it's fun, you know. And if you can find that speed and a way to generate the momentum in the S curves, you can take that onto any track and find speed.
Next up is Italy's Maurizio Ioli. First of our 2 Italian sliders here. Now we're getting down to our 20th athlete of 28, but only the fast 20 go through into Heat 2, so now we are really into go fast or go home territory.
Maurizio was working a little too hard to get the perfect line into curve 1. Hopefully he can relax and just let it fly through the S curves. And that's a decent S2. It's not perfect, but he's not making much noise between the transitions, so if he can just generate some speed in the, well, sorry, buddy.
Yeah, you see the long levers there sticking out, and that's affecting the balance. So we always say you steer with head, shoulders, knees, and toes in this sport.
Yeah, and he grabbed his handles in the Kreisel and had a big skid in the second pressure. Maurizio is one of the sweetest guys on tour, too. It breaks my heart to see him have a run like this.
32 years old now, soldier in the Italian army from Domodossola. As all Italian sliders now from the Südtirol. There's Danny Liccardi, the coach, former women's skeleton slider. Well, 16th place, that might well see him in the race. Dave Swift of Great Britain and Patrick Rooney of Canada, our World Cup rookie, are on the bubble at the moment.
Yeah, he knows. Right here. He came out too early and then he fought it. I think if he had just relaxed and taken the line he had, he might have like grazed the wall, but he wouldn't have been struggling so much here on the last part just before C curve.
Weighing the sled and the athlete together and separately to make sure they comply to all the regulations is a part of your run here. Lukas Kummer of Switzerland, crushing last couple of race weekends for him, missed out on a slot after Christmas, had 3 opportunities to get a top 12 finish to go to the games and came up short on every occasion. Now the selection has been made by the Swiss, he will not be sliding.
That's a bummer. His start always impresses me. Unfortunately, in our sport, it's really weird that way. Like, you want to be in phenomenal physical condition so that you can sprint as hard as you can and then get your heart rate down and relax the rest of the way down. A lot of sprinters have trouble understanding that it's not just about being a fast meathead athlete. You have to be able to be that sack of potatoes down the hill.
He's working really hard on this. Oh, and it shows. Late through the labyrinth. And he will struggle to make the second heat on this run. 20th place and losing speed all the way down. He looks so pedestrian there at the bottom. 20th spot, he's in the race. And Dave Swift of Great Britain is out. But I'm not sure we're going to see Lukas Kummer slide again in this World Cup race.
Such a bummer. His start is so good. If he could just learn how to relax after he gets onto his sled, it would be a totally different ball game. I took note of Andre Lange back in the day when he would be at the start line and he just had his arms crossed and was just so relaxed, and I figured that maybe it was worth it to sacrifice a couple hundredths on the start just to make sure that when I loaded on my sled, I could get my heart rate down and just be in the moment.
Yeah, because whatever speed you've got, you could give away, and Lukas Kummer just showed us that. Next up, Alexandros Kefalas will be one of the first athletes into the opening ceremony in Sochi. The Greek Olympic Federation confirmed he will go to represent them in skeleton in what will be a fairly tiny winter team. And Greece, the home of the athlete of the Games, always the first athletes into the stadium. And being one of the bigger, taller, stronger guys, he may even end up as their flag bearer. 497 getaway for him.
And you see him wiggling his head, trying to make sure he gets the perfect line. He's staying quite relaxed, but I think it's just a little too much. And there, he scrubbed it out as S2 already.
5'10", 180 pounds. He's a big, tall athlete from Champfer, just down the road from Samarit.
It is such a tricky bend away. Back in the day, they used to make the wall so it was rounded at the bottom and you didn't even have to hit. And now you have to, like, I learned in training that I had to look the wall square in the eyes and be like, I'm coming at you, and not even try to look down the bend away till after I hit. Ooh, that was tight.
Yeah. Wild ride, 19th place, but he's got speed, he skids it away. He was 17th in the last split. Is he going to make the second cut? 19th spot. Patrick Rooney is 20th, Lucas Kummer is out, Alexandros Kefalas is in, and this is the dog-eat-dog nature of being outside the top 10 in the World Cup, realistically, isn't it? You know, it's you or some other guy.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had too much experience being back there, but I remember last year when I popped the groove and I missed the cut by 500ths. It was brutal.
Yeah, you had a long time to wait for that result as well.
Oh, yeah.
Kefalas, little interesting down the bottom here. Takes that big hit, he's almost off the sled. But at the moment, he's in the race.
He's always got such a great attitude and is willing to learn, though.
But another first-time Olympian here. John Farrow of Australia. 2 years ago, he couldn't walk after a sprinting accident in Lake Placid. Last year, he walked and slid with a boot on his ankle. This year, he is going to the Games to represent his country.
He's quite a great athlete, and I am really impressed with his comeback. Yeah, these athletes down here in the lower ranks are just not going with the S-curves as well as the ones you saw in the first 10 sliders.
Well, again, last year, first tentative steps back on the ice. This is his first season where he said he could actually run properly. Actually, just to see the lack of movement he's got in his foot is quite gruesome. Now,
John seems to do a lot of extreme sports, and you can tell he has that unique combination of being a sprinter and an extreme sport athlete. And I think with him, he was much more tight at the top of the track, was able to relax through the middle.
Look at that run, yeah. 14th place. That's what you talk about when you talk about relaxation. Just let it flow and don't fight it. What a run. That's got to be the run of his season.
He was very relaxed through Kreisel and had a very good exit, but you could see as soon as he got out, he started to come back and start thinking about what was going to happen and not really stay in the moment. He started to get a little bit more tight on his sled, but from Bendaway through Kreisel down, it was great. You can see right here, he just starts to get a little tight because he thinks he missed the line. See, he comes up and he's like, no, I don't wanna.
Yeah, coming a little late, gets that skid, but 14th spot, safely in the race. Big result for him. Next up, Ander Mirambel, another man, very happy this week. Monday, he was having surgery in Barcelona on a dislocated jaw. Tuesday, he was appointed to Spain's Olympic squad for the second time.
And he also PB'd in training this week. He had his first 51 ever, so this could be quite a great race for him. He's gotten some help from Martin Rettel, who has been a great coach for the Austrians. And he, again, is another guy that is handling his mistakes well and just relaxing. He's come a long way. Oh, that's going to cost him.
Full of confidence this season. He's had some really good slides in the last couple of weeks. 16th and 17th in Winterberg and Samaris, but wild at the bottom here. And that's going to see him out of the top 20.
My heart just broke. He was having such a good run, and then he just got tight and made a couple of mistakes that cost him all his speed going into Kreisel.
Again, this must feel like it is so slow to him. 52.95 slide, he's in front of Dave Swift, but doesn't make the second heat.
That is such a disappointment when he was doing so well in training. I think he knew it, and I think what happens sometimes is when you are in the moment and then you realize that you're having a good run, you snap out of it and then you try too hard, and it seems like that might have been what happened to Ander.
Big
right there. Yeah, but he hit twice going in from Bendaway, so when you hit early going into Jenner, it causes you to go way too high on the end of Jenner and then late on your side into Kreisel, then you're finished, because that's uphill. There's nothing you can do.
Andrzej Cetina of Slovenia, like the Dukurs brothers and Alexandros Kefalas, part of the Sika coaching program, their development team. Latvian sleds, Latvian techniques, and two very good, inverted commas, teammates in the Dukurs brothers to bring this young man along. 27-year-old runs a family trucking company.
See him struggling on that uphill part. It's really creepy because you can't see the entry at a 1 on that uphill section, and you try to navigate your way through, and then as soon as you start going downhill, whatever movements you made prior to that are accentuated. It looks like he's having a decent run through the S-curves. If he can just relax and See, I think that's a mistake a lot of athletes make. They don't square up to that wall and just take it. They try to maneuver around it, and that causes them to go too early to Jenner and scrubs their speed.
1:18.1, not great speed. He is outside the cut at the moment.
There's two key points. You can generate speed from your start. You can generate more speed from the S-curves. And if you can maintain that speed through bend away and actually gain more because you're going so far down, like the pitch of the bend away is so steep. Those are the three key points. And then, you know, obviously Kreisel. You can afford to make mistakes out of Kreisel if you can maintain the speed in those 3 points. I've seen a lot of people generate the speed in one spot or the other, but very few in all three.
He makes it through in 20th place, bumps quasi-teammate Alexandros Kefalas out. Look at the concentration and the focus. He's trying to get that line.
Yeah, but he had already turned his sled away from the wall, which then you end up coming. He's working really hard to miss that wall on the left, and then he goes in a little bit too early to Jenner.
In the race at the moment, with 3 to come, including Pascal Oswald of Switzerland.
Pasky! Us girls call him butterscotch. He's a little easy on the eyes and his skin looks like butterscotch.
33-year-old, Miss North America. Did the World Cup North America, Miss Winterberg, with a little Christmas period injury.
He also became a lawyer over the summer and I believe got married. He's very dedicated and very disciplined in his athletic career. However,
big season for him then.
Yeah, his S2 again was a little too, you know, he wasn't going with it very well, and he cost himself some speed. Hit before Jenner.
Wrestling the sled all the way. Any race car driver will tell you if you're fighting the car, you're fighting the time as well.
He's another phenomenal athlete that just tends to get a little too tight and tries to be too perfect. He's so disciplined. I think that's something some athletes struggle with, is that when you have everything in order and it's perfect, you have to realize you can't do that down the track.
Yeah. 5:01 getaway. He comes down in 24th place. So Anshay Satina hangs on in the lead of the race.
Oh. He always has a great attitude. That's probably to his wife, I would think. Oh, butterscotch. He's always a lot of fun on tour. I guarantee you, like I said, even when you have a horrible run and you're struggling, this track is so much fun.
Look at the height he comes down from, what, 5 meters there, doing 75 miles an hour, just slams into the wall. You think the sled takes it all? No.
I'm pretty sure his shoulder took a bit of that.
Oh, yeah. Well, next up is Giovanni Molisano, regular leader of Italy's World Cup team last year, struggling with injuries at the beginning of this season. Works for the prison service in Italy.
That's interesting, I didn't know that.
Well, I said he was a carabinieri originally because he put down on his form policeman, but in fact it's...
Oh, he was way too high on the end of S2 and scraped right into S3. And see how he tried to get away from the wall? Now he's in basically a big skid all the way down the bend away. He's even a kilometer-an-hour lower.
Slowest speed we've seen, same as Lucas Kummer. This is not going to put him into the second heat.
It looks like he's pretty relaxed now and having a decent bottom, but at this point, if you haven't generated speed, you have no chance.
Rubs all the way along the wall, uphill. That's just like putting on the brakes. And 25th spot out of our 27 sliders so far. So he will not get a second run, only the fast 20 go through.
Hopefully his teammate Maurizio can come back second heat, relax, and lay one down.
Yeah.
He was so relaxed at the bottom and just was going with it. He just lost it in S2 and never got it back.
No second heat for Giovanni Molisano, our final slider on the ice, making his first World Cup race of the season. Is Gert Kutja from the Netherlands. That's the Dutch word for calf. And he comes from Friesland, which is where Frisian cattle come from, so a very appropriate family name.
Oh, I always love a cowboy.
Yeah, well, he's less of a cowboy and more of a cattle. Just turned 24, beginning of this month.
He seemed pretty relaxed and happy in training. This was the first time I had the pleasure of meeting him. He helped me out with some tape during a training run.
Yeah.
So far, he's been pretty smooth. He was a little high on the SS2, but it was decent. Oh.
Yep.
If he can keep it straight from here, oh, I don't know. He's going to struggle.
Colours of his region, Friesland on the helmet, and the face of a cow as well. 1:14.6, that's very slow, I'm afraid. He's got no momentum at all to play with.
Had some major skids in the middle of Kreisel as well, so his speed is going to it's going to fall away here.
Like so many athletes got into this from watching on the TV. He was watching the games in Vancouver 2010 with his friends. They were watching the luge and they were saying, hey, you're mad enough, you should do that. And he said, no, that looks far too safe. Somebody said, oh, you can do it head first. Oh, okay, that's where we...
That's how it happens,
That's
right? Someone just talks you into trying it before you know better.
Yeah, well, there's 2 American Olympians in this team that did exactly the same after the Salt Lake City Games, where that's the sport for me.
Oh, that cost him so much speed. He's staying really relaxed, though. I'm impressed, actually, with his demeanor on the sled. This could be a great slider here in a few years.
Yeah, bit more ice time, bit more training. Let's face it, last Olympic Games, he was watching at home going, what is this weird thing? Yeah. And here he is, trying to compete with Olympic athletes and Olympic champions. Well, he's an Olympic athlete, but he's not been an Olympic champion yet. Martin Dukurs is our race leader after the first of our 2 heats here in Königssee in Bavaria. The man who redefines what skeleton sliding should look like is 1 heat, 50-odd seconds away from being 100,000 euro richer. Can he produce another winning run in the 2nd heat? It's not enough to win the race. He's got to be the fastest man on ice as well. We'll find out in an hour whether he will win our 8th World Cup of the season and whether he will go back to Latvia 100,000 euro better off.
I doubt he's even thinking about it.
I'm sure he's not. If it comes his way, it comes. If not, he'll just focus on building up to the games. He's 4,200 ahead of Matt Antoine. Thomas Dukurs lying in 3rd with Frank Rommel, the best of our German sliders, 4th ahead of teammate Alexander Krökel. This could be a big day for Hiro Takahashi as well. The Japanese gets another run. He might challenge for an overall podium spot. 20 fast sleds go through. The remaining 8 will be watching from the sidelines, from Greece's Alexandros Kefalas to Younger Kucha of the Netherlands. So, my thanks to Katie Ulander for joining us in the booth. Thanks to you for being with us, and for the FIBT TV crew for the great pictures. Join us for the 2nd heat coming up shortly, live from Königssee in Bavaria. Till then, Martin Haven saying goodbye.